Hi everyone. Happy New Year. Happy New
Happy
Year
New
to you
Year.
too, MJ.
Yes, Happy New Year,
Yeah,
Dave.
yeah, good to see you. Finally we get we get to get together after about a month to kind of
Yeah,
continue streaming about talking about Fabric, AI, and hopefully we'll start on Nerdy That Set side of things soon as well.
yeah.
So yeah, welcome back and welcome back everyone.
Welcome
We've
back.
got
Yeah,
some very interesting topic today. It's slightly deviating from Fabric. End of last year, MJ and I joined the AI
AI tour. Yeah, and
tour,
the AI partner event as well. Yeah,
yeah, and the partner training event, and also so MJ, you were presenting on 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 the AI tour, right? For
yeah,
the
yeah,
partner
yeah,
training,
yeah.
you were doing
Yes.
you did a training session, a full day training session over there,
Yep.
and then the on during the AI tour, you kind of help out with the um
The fabric team. Yeah, I helped them out. Yeah, yeah.
with the fabric side of thing
Yes.
as well. So there's a lot of new things that's kind of been announced, or after being announced, it kind of just finally like a formal announcement. And like my take on that is it start to on the AI side of things, it actually really start to make a lot of sense
Yes.
now.
Becoming much more material. Yeah, much more concrete in terms of like the
Yeah,
direction and like the use cases and like when to use which and like yeah, I think it's becoming. Yeah, I agree. Like it's going to that point now where like it's not just about talking about AI just for AI's sake. Like I think we're
yes.
going deep now. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like there's some like practical things that people from the business or even in personal life, people can actually do to actually utilize AI for things to improve a lot of things. Like we've been talking about it for a while, and since the launch of ChatGPT 3 back in I think late 2022, like it's
Yeah.
been a bit over 2 years, been lots of talks, lots of hypes. So it's really exciting for me to actually see this AI tool thing really coming out from like a business application. Like it's
Mm.
kind of user ready. It's got some whole bunch of fun stuff, which you've actually got more exposure because
Yeah.
you are the Microsoft MVP for AI as well, right?
Yes.
So
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, lots of hats. So I thought we that there was a whole bunch of cool stuff being announced during AI tool. Like there's a lot from Ignite, but like think the AI tool is really a nice focus on that.
Yeah.
So um, what are you gonna show us today, MJ?
All right. Okay. So for today, we're gonna talk about AI skills in Fabric. Yeah, it's a very, very interesting approach that I think, right, I'm kind of like betting on this, that when you look at especially RAG or RAG or the whole space about chatting with your data type of scenario, um, the usual problem of like, hey, here's your ChatGPT experience, but can it talk to my data, right? Then that's where you come with AI search and like create a RAG pipeline and like introduce a vector database, do some embeddings here and there, um, and then you come to another problem of data quality. In like, how do I ensure that this data is really my data and like doesn't hallucinate and like that type of thing, right?
Yeah, like we
Um,
did a video on that exact
yeah, yeah,
topic a while back as well, and back
yeah,
then I think it was like using LangChain or something, and
yeah,
just even the SQL translation. So from normal language to SQL translation is really a bit of hit and miss back then.
yeah,
And we're
exactly.
talking
Yeah.
about a year ago, right? So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Now it's very, the timing is good because for me, AI skill is kind of like a really good approach on how things really work. All right, so let me start sharing my screen.
yep,
Okay, so can you see my screen?
yep.
All right, so this is just, like what is an AI skill? So basically, an AI skill is an item in Fabric. Okay, so like just think of it like a notebook or any sort of like artifact within Fabric. Right. So the deployment model would be you go to Fabric, you create a workspace, you assign a capacity, and then you need to create an item to have an AI skill. All right. Now, with that, let me just quickly do some drawing around this. All right. So what this really means is that, hey, here's my Fabric environment, this green bit here, right? So that's my Fabric environment. And then inside that, I have my, let's call it, this is your workspace, right? And then inside that, you have orange. And then let's say we create another one, blue. Let's say here's your data, right? Let's say here's your warehouse, lake house, yeah, etc. Right? Now, the whole concept of AI skill is that AI skill is basically a way for you to, you know, for you to kind of like expose your data, right, to external kind of like a use case, right? So the whole idea there is that, hey, you have a data in a warehouse, and using AI skills, instead of moving the data into a vector database or you're going through a RAG pipeline, it's as easy as to saying, hey, I need some chat experience with this particular warehouse. Can you do that? Right. So that's why it's a very specific, narrowed use case. Now, how does that work? So one of the caveat though, right now, as most of the cool AI features in Fabric is that you need to be an F64 capacity or higher for this to be enabled. I do believe they're announcing AI capacity soon as well. So this would allow you to have a specific capacity just for AI. But nonetheless, as of now, you need an F64 capacity. All right.
Oh,
And
really?
then,
So my F2 is not going to cut it then.
nah, not gonna work, right? Yeah.
Damn it.
Because it comes with a, again, the whole, if we go back here, right? So inside here, you got, you also get like, the LLM is in here, right? So
Right. Yeah.
that's why,
Yeah.
that
You
means
need
that
more
you need more.
resources. Yeah.
And then in your admin portal, make sure you also um, enable it, right? Like these users can create an AI skill. You need to make sure it's enabled as well, right? It's currently in preview. That's why you still have to enable it. All right. So once
Yep.
you've enabled that, it's very easy, man. Like so let me just go to my workspace here. So in this workspace, I have this warehouse, right? So this is the default sample warehouse in Fabric. So when you create a new Fabric warehouse, like the sample one, it populates this, right? You have a like different trip records with the accompanied weather data and the Hackney license. Like I think that was like the vehicle information and the medallion as well, right? And the geography where that is. So again, very basic kind of like a data point, right? Now let me go to let's try to load the trip. Okay. So basically these are just lists of trips, right? And then from this, you can just yeah, like if you go further in the trips, like comes with different reference IDs as well, where you that would allow you to marry it up or join to the date, the geography, and so on. Right. Now let's go to AI skill itself. So literally just create a new item and search for AI skills. Right. And there you go. So now I've already created one in here, and literally it's this window here. Right? All you gotta do is choose the tables that you want to kind of like think of it like well, first off, you need to choose the data source, right? In this
Yep.
case, it's that warehouse one, and then you just have to choose the tables that you want to um, extract information of.
Yep.
All right. Now from that, now this is your chat experience here, right? Let's say tell me the latest trip. All right. So basically, what this does, right? What AI skill is doing is that it's it's understanding your schema, right? Your kind of like your database schema here, and then there you go. It's just creating the a SQL statement under the hood,
Yep.
right? So that's why what are I have other examples here, things like this one. What is the distribution of trips by hour on working days, non-holiday weekdays, right? So from there, this would kind of like allow you to have this, right? And pretty much like literally serve that to the user, right? Or
Yeah.
let's say you have an
Wow.
orchestrator like LangChain or semantic kernel, that this could be like an endpoint that it can pick it up and then you connect to an API or do this and
Yep.
that and then serve it back to the user, right?
Yeah.
But basically under the hood, it's pretty simple, right? Literally just generates a SQL statement, outputs the result, and shows that to the user. And you have a
Yep.
system model as well here, a system message that you can also ask. Like for example, when dates, you can tell them about this. And you can also kind of like do some few shots learning in here, which is the example SQL queries, right?
Mm.
Yeah, man, like literally that's AI skills in a nutshell, man. Like very,
Yeah.
very simple.
It is. It is that simplicity
Yeah.
around it, and I also got a feeling that if something right now is not easy to do or implement, then it's probably not quite ready yet. When it's ready, it should be as simple as this for the user at least. Obviously in the back end, there is a fair bit happening. I guess when you take the tables, you'll probably be picking the metadata around those tables and then
Yeah,
feeding the schema into a prompt somewhere, and or the connections and everything. One of the things I haven't played around with this one. It's actually the first time I've seen it as well. But so like it's super cool. How do you find the stability of the SQL statement being generated? Like, is it accurate?
yeah. So here's the thing, right? I've played around it for a while now. If like it's accurate to a degree around, hey, you need to be specific of the table that you're looking at, right? Like, hey, I'm looking for a trip, so make sure you have to mention you're looking for a trip, not looking for like and um, like other terms, right? So I think that's why I think an orchestrator would really be handy to handle those, semantics, right? Of things, right? So that's why I think this is kind of like an API abstraction approach of your
Mm.
data, right? It's kind of like, hey, here's your database, here's an API endpoint around that, right? So, but then if you have
Okay.
a much more complex query around like this is my intent and you need to understand my intention. I think that's where
Yeah.
you either really need to provide as many examples as you want, or you need to be
Mm.
very specific on the system message. Um,
Mm.
Otherwise, that's why I think the use case here is that you need to create micro AI skills rather than
Yeah.
one AI skill for everything, right? So what do I mean by that is, for example, in this case, I'm just creating a trip AI micro skill or something like
Yeah.
that. But then if my schema, which is in real world, is composed of 70 to 300 tables, now I'm not gonna create one AI skill that infers all of that all together. So maybe it is just on in the beginning, but then the approach that I'll be doing is that I'll be much more specific um,
Mm.
on the use of that skill, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. It's about, keeping things simple at the skill level, but you can have multiple skills, and then you can have another layer on top to kind of
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
figure out like which skill to use. And that's large language model as well, right?
Yes.
Like, but having that extra layer. But so is there a like an API for this?
Yeah. So basically, you publish this, right? So once you publish this, right? Go to the publishing details. And then from here it comes with an endpoint,
Oh
right?
wow.
So yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I'm telling you, man. This is very useful. Or in that endpoint, right?
Yeah.
Basically, you see, if you played around with Azure OpenAI before, right?
Yeah.
Same thing, right? You have a slash deployment in there. So yeah, man, like it's kind of like I'm guessing it's like a fine-tuned OpenAI kind of like a endpoint out there.
Yeah.
That's kind of like deployed,
Mm.
Yeah, that's
Oh
why I
wow.
think this is really nice. And you know what this really unlocks as well, David, is that if you look at Fabric, right, and the this is one of those natural extensions of Fabric, right, AI skills. But what you're really getting from Fabric is one leg. Talk about shortcuts and mirroring, right? We've talked about that many times before. So think of it like, hey, I have a transactional DB in Cosmos DB or Azure SQL. I want to have a ChatGPT experience on that. Well, what you can do is that use Fabric, mirror that data, and then use AI skills, point to those tables, and like there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah,
Have a chat.
given it's all part of Microsoft as well, I'm sure Copilot can very easily add
You
this
can,
skill,
yes, you can,
and
you
then
can,
you can then just add it into Teams, right?
yes.
Straight away. So from the end user perspective, they just talk to like whatever you want to call like one of the Teams chatbots, and then instead of getting like normal chat experience, this is a kind of like a specific one with data, and you can have so
Exactly.
there's so
Yeah.
many flexibility around
Yeah.
that as
And
well,
like,
right?
yeah. And what you literally just mentioned there is that you've kind of like skipped the whole reporting layer, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
right? Like you skip the reporting layer, right? Like, hey, here's your data. What do you want to know? What insight do you want to understand?
Well,
right?
I don't think you will
Yeah.
replace the whole reporting layer.
No,
I
no, no,
think
no.
what's going to happen is you have standard reports, but then user always ask ad hoc questions around like, oh, can you give me? And those ad hoc questions can consume a lot of time.
Yeah.
But with this
Instead of creating a
ones,
report, right? Instead of like going to,
yeah,
hey,
yeah,
David, can you create a report that tells me about the number of trips per, per location, right? Or something.
yeah, like whoever whatever the business wants to figure out instead of
Or
coming
extract
to
to
the
Excel
reporting.
and like, hey, can you give it to me in a pivot table? Like
Yep,
yeah,
yep. Yeah, this
yeah.
is obviously super powerful. We kind of I think Microsoft with the direction is
I think this is the right direction, man. Like
yeah, it
because
makes
at the same
sense.
time, think of it as well, right? Like because it's in Fabric, let's say you do have to do some level of transformation, validation, or you have to join this to another table, or so on and so forth, and then do that on Fabric, right? Like shortcut the lake house with this lake house, put it in a warehouse, and then do some aggregations, and then put an AI skill on top of it, right? Abstraction, right? And yeah,
Yeah,
I think we've come to that point now in yeah, a fabric enabled environment would really be in a
yeah,
really really agile environment. That's what I'm saying, right? With
yeah,
their insights time, like access to data, decision making and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I mean 100% man, I agree. That's why I think this is the right direction. I'm sold that you consolidate everything to one lake, and if you need to expose that data to like a ChatGPT experience, then AI skill is one way to do it. One of the really good way to do it.
and we spoke about like um the developers needs to incorporate AI skill sets, and data specialists right now also need to incorporate a lot of those AI mindsets about prompting, how do you actually test, how do you validate, like maybe having actual test cases is finally starting to make a lot more sense
Exactly.
for this kind of scenario, because you do want to automate, but you want the response to be more grounded, and you need a way to actually continue to test and validate that. And complexity is another thing that we mentioned earlier. There's probably a lot of like designs, so finding that sweet spot between how much uh, how should I simplify it, but having multiple skills versus having less skills, but allowing it to be dealing with a lot more complicated queries as well. But I'm just shocked in how fast this space is evolving again.
Yeah.
We haven't heard anything all of a sudden. It's something that coming out, not solving like a specific AI problem. This is like a whole solution revealing in front of our eyes, and it's so transformative for
Yeah.
business, for the industry, and it's just incredible.
Yeah. Me too, man. Yeah. Yeah. I think again, I'm very very excited for this year. I think this year is a very fruitful year for us. We'll have good problems this year of like, hey, we've now become the fabric experts and like fabric gurus and like we can't scale ourselves because 300 companies wants fabric, but where do they find the skills, where do they find the thought leadership and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yes,
that's why my advice is watch this video, you'll learn as we grow.
yes,
Watch our
yeah,
previous videos, you'll learn what we were learning back then.
yeah. Definitely, it's a learning journey for everyone, us included as well. But yeah, definitely hope you enjoy the content. Our first one for today. MJ
For this
even
year. Yeah.
had for this year. Sorry, yeah, a new one for this year. MJ even had a nice haircut to actually go with it as well. So like and support us. We'll see you next time. Thanks again, MJ.
All right, all good, Dave. See ya.